MLB The Show for MLB The Show 20. Figured, well, there isn't going to be a baseball season, at least till, well, hopefully till the regular season starts on, I believe they said April 4th is supposed to be opening day. I know that the preseason is closed down, so we're just going to keep the Grapefruit League going here. Coming up at 1 o'clock, the regularly scheduled game for today's date, as you can see, is to be the Phillies and the Pittsburgh Pirates, coming up at 1:05. Chris Archer against Vince Velasquez. Lineup is pretty much going to be what you would expect. Andrew McCutchen back from a season-ending injury last season, and he'll be back in the starting lineup batting first. Gene Segura will be batting second, playing second. Did play shortstop last year. Bryce Harper, right field, batting third. Rhys Hoskins, the first baseman, batting fourth. JT Realmuto gets to start behind the plate. He'll be batting fifth. Didi Gregorius, over from the New York Yankees, will be batting sixth and the starting shortstop this season. Scott Kingery, His Royal Highness, moves over to third base. Jay Bruce will be the designated hitter when there is a designated hitter. Obviously, this being a National League game, there will not be a designated hitter, and usually Roman Quinn will get the start in center. So this is the lineup you will most likely see today. As you can see, Roman Quinn will get the start in center field. Vince Velasquez batting ninth and pitching. Big bench because the 40-man roster is currently playing. When the regular season begins, the regular season roster will switch to a 26-man roster. In seasons past, it was only 25. They added a single-player spot. I really honestly don't know why they don't have a 40-man roster all year long. However, the bench consists of the following: Jay Bruce, Nick Williams, Andrew Knapp, who this year on MLB the 20, the show, they actually made look like him. So that's pretty cool. Adam Hazley, the rookie. Neil Walker, the travel veteran, former Pittsburgh Pirate, by the way, among other teams. Kyle Garlick. Don't know much about this guy, but he is on the 40-man roster, so it says on MLB.com. There's some other players on here who I have yet to hear about. Mickey Moniak is not one of those, however. He is a top prospect in the Philly system. I put him on the 40-man roster just because I think he's going to be a player, a very well-known player in years to come. Journeyman Phil Gosselin is still on the Phillies. Alec Boehm, who I heard is, as you can see, a rising prospect. So that's the roster so far. Pitching staff this year is pretty decent. Aaron Nola, of course, the ace of the staff. Zach Wheeler, who we picked up from the Mets last year, getting that second start. Jake the Snake Arrieta in there. He has moved to the third spot in the rotation. Zach Eflin, who showed signs of brilliance last year, finds himself in the fourth spot. And then, of course, Vince Velasquez, who gets the start today against Pittsburgh, will take that fifth spot in the rotation. The bullpen, Nick Pivetta, who was a starter last year, they had high hopes for this guy in the starting role, but relegated him to the bullpen. Ranger Suarez, Cole Irvin. Man, I'll tell you what, I don't know who created this guy, but I have to look at a picture of this guy. I don't know if that's exactly how he looks, but anyway, Cole Irvin, another prospect that really didn't catch any stride last season, but he's in the bullpen this spring. Victor Arano, Sir Anthony's back in there, Jose Alvarez. This kid I'm reading a lot about, Robert Stock. He wears number 89, and usually when people wear a number that high, they generally don't see time during the regular season. However, if he's able to pitch, at least in my season, and pitch effectively, I will most likely be keeping him in the bullpen. Adam Morgan, the veteran left-hander, who was a starter at one point, became a setup guy, middle relief guy for the most part. Austin Davis, another youngster in the bullpen who, another left-handed arm for situational pitching. Hector Neris, who was hit or miss last season, he had a couple good hits, but hits meaning saves, quality saves, quality closing for the Phillies last season. However, he really let up some stinkers last season. Hopefully that will not be the case this season. Enel De Los Santos, another return. Edgar Garcia, Delois Guerra, Reggie McClain, David Robertson, who is on the 40-man roster, I believe. He is. I think he might still actually be on the injured list in reality. However, I figure a guy with this talent needs to be on and in pitching. You might actually see him in today's matchup against Pittsburgh. But this whole franchise mode is very interesting, very deep. I mean, I know there's probably a lot of people out there who don't think it's enough. Quite frankly, I think that everything I need is right here. This is a pretty cool feature here. You can actually put somebody on the disabled list, or the injured list as they call it now. So, I mean, I could go down here and find David Robertson and just stick him back on the, which I actually did. I took him off the injured reserve list because I figured, you know what, I need him in there. He's a veteran reliever, and he needs to be in that bullpen. But you can actually, in this particular setting, actually put people on the injured list. I was going to say, usually as I play along with the season, if the person goes on the injured list, I would actually, sim that myself. And if, let's just say, if, God forbid, Andrew McCutchen went back on the injured list, who I believe is free and clear to play this year. I don't know if he still has any nagging injuries or not. Hopefully he will see that first spot in the lineup if the season ever does begin. But if he was to ever go back on the injured list, I could just go back in here and actually, pick an injury. As strange as that may sound. You could have done this in other versions of the show. I know you could do it in 17, 18, 19, and now here in 20. You can do the duration, set the duration for up to 5 days depending on the severity of the injury. Black eye. You can go on the injury list for a black eye. Can you imagine that? Broken cheek, shoulder strain. So, I mean, your typical injury, shoulder tear, that'll pretty much end your season anyway. But the cool thing about this is that if the injury is not that severe and winds up coming back early, then you can actually just remove said player from this injured list, which could be 10, 15, or 60 day, and stick them back on the bench. As I mentioned, the roster this year went from 25 to 26. So as you can see up here in the upper right-hand corner, of course I can't go up there, but in the upper right-hand corner, where it says roster information, the 40-man roster is in effect for the spring. They have the 40-man roster here, all the way down. All players from Major League down to Single A. Now there are some fictitious players in here, I would say, but whoever created this roster, I actually got this roster off the vault. I did my own little tweaking and uniform sort of tweaking as far as the style gloves they wear or the cleats they wear or how they wear their baseball pants or excuse me, the just general editing. This guy I really want to see back in the back on the team. I don't have him on the 40-man roster, but I might actually add him on there. Blake Parker. He's got kind of a strange delivery. Let me see if I can bring that up. See, they're not going to do the whole thing. So usually they have him where he's like pumping the arms and all that stuff, but he was pretty decent. I mean, he's not a superstar, but he, from what I could see, he's got some pretty good stuff. He had a pretty decent fastball. 6'3", 225. He's been around. I believe that the Phillies actually released him and then brought him back and invited him to spring training. So hopefully he does eventually make the team. But if one of my pitchers on this particular squad does not cut it, I will definitely be putting this man back on the 40-man roster. And if luck would have it, actually adding him to the relief pitcher stock here. So, Drew Storen. Well, there's a name. He's been around. He's been on the Braves. He's been on other teams. Brandon Liebrandt. This kid here, if I'm not mistaken, is the son of Charlie Liebrandt, who used to pitch for the Kansas City Royals, among other teams. I think he played pitch for the Indians too, but this is the son of Charlie Liebrandt, who looks to be in the Phillies system. Looks like on the Reading Fightins. Francisco Liriano. Now there's another guy who they apparently signed over the offseason for a minor league contract. As you can see here, he's on the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs. And, well, who knows? Something happens. I might bring him up. I don't know. Could happen. What I want to do, basically, like I said, in the absence of actually having a season to follow this, spring, I wanted to put some games on. So I'm going to come back on at about 1:05, time permitting, roundabout. At least that's the scheduled time I'm giving myself. I am on call for work, so I will. The plan is to come on around 1:05, which is when when this game was originally scheduled. As we take a look at the calendar here, these are the games that I have simmed so far. I've actually played this game, and this game so far. Obviously, yesterday's game was not televised. Phil's won that one. So as you can see, there's about a pretty decent amount of games left. We got today's game against Pittsburgh. We got Baltimore on Monday. We got Toronto on Tuesday. Tampa Bay on Wednesday. The Yankees on Thursday. Once again with Toronto on Friday. Tampa on Saturday. Baltimore, and then Tampa again. And that would pretty much wrap it up for spring training, as the regular season would begin in earnest on the 26th. That's another team. Excuse me. So because I have not simmed or played through spring training yet, as I said, the actual regular season, the first actual game in Major League Baseball is scheduled to start on Thursday, March 26th. And Phillies will actually be in Miami to take on the Marlins for a 3-game set, if I'm not mistaken. But they will be in Miami, that's for sure, to start the season. And I think they have the Mets, and then they'll come home. So there's your pitching matchup today. Right-hander Chris Archer going against Double V, as I like to call him, Vince Velasquez. Don't know if I'll be commentating on the game or not, but I figured I'd just at least bring you some sort of a wink-wink, air quote, pregame show just to tell you what I'm doing, and hope to get some of my friends from the Wrestling Network, Randy and Mark, Zach, Clint, on here, and maybe we'll do some games and commentate together if time and if time allows, if technology allows, if they pick up the game. That's the plan. But more than likely, this will be the lineup today. McCutcheon, Segura, Harper, Hoskins, Realmuto, Gregorius, Kingery, Quinn, and Vince, Double V, Vince Velasquez. So that will be the starting lineup today against those Buccos. And guess that's it for now. So I'm going to sign off, and I'm going to get this game started in a little while. I may do commentary, I may not. Probably send it over to Matt Vasgersian, Dan Plesac, and D-Row, as they call him. And we'll come back then. If not, you'll hear my voice again calling the action. If not, we'll get the in-game commentary. So for now, I'll catch y'all later. See ya.